morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you happen to be listening. I am excited to welcome to the show today, Becky Schroeder. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at Insurance Technologies Corporation. We have interacted primarily on Twitter. She is the funniest tweeter like in this insurance group that kind of corresponds all day long. I always crack up when I get to read your tweets about unsubscribing to emails specifically, because I understand that pain. I totally get it. And I need to unsubscribe from emails myself. But I'm excited to get to know you today. Welcome to the show, Becky. How are you doing?
Thanks. Hi, Olivia. I am hot because it's summer here in Dallas, but I'm good.
Good. And how is life now? Were you working in an office before and now you're working from home, or have you always worked from home?
No, I've always worked in an office. So this working from home thing is new for me. I mean, I've worked from home on occasion, like when my kids are sick and I needed to be home with them because I couldn't send them to school. But that was one-off days. It was not for however many months we've been doing this now, because I've lost track. I used to, you talk about Twitter. I was keeping like a daily comment on my life of working from home.
Yeah.
When this started, and eventually I stopped because I just became repetitive.
Yeah. It's like we're in a time warp. I'm not sure what day it is sometimes, a lot of times. And my kids don't know anymore either. They'll ask me, is it Thursday or Friday? We just don't know. There's nothing to, delineate one day from another. But speaking of kids, so who's family? Who drives you crazy at home these days?
Well, I have 3 girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and they're young. So 7, 5, and 2. And, it depends on the day because, my 2-year-old is a 2-year-old.
Yep.
And with that comes I like to call her a tiny dictator because, she decides she wants something and she wants it a specific way. And if it doesn't happen the exact way she wants it, she's going to throw the biggest fit in the world. And then she'll turn on a dime and be like, done. Meaning she's done throwing her fit and she's all happy. And I'm like, okay, now do you want this? Yes, I do. Okay. So, that's the 2-year-old. And my oldest she's been relatively good these last, and good, I mean, in terms of not being too much of a handful. There were some challenges with school from home.
Oh yeah.
But when school was still in session, and she's old enough where I think she's able to control her emotions a little bit better, but she's not old enough or mature enough yet to be able to really express verbally what she's feeling and try to understand why she's feeling it. So there were some outbursts from her that I knew was coming from the stress she was feeling and the anxiety she was feeling, but she just wasn't able to put words to it. So it was a practice in grace and patience in responding to that and letting her have the space to feel what she was feeling and try to help her, guide her through going from this feeling of helplessness to a feeling back of hope, and looking towards the future. And then my middle daughter, I like to call her my tiny tornado. She's the reason why mommy should buy a distillery. She's
the middle child all the time.
Yeah, she's the source of all my gray hairs, both current and future. But she's also doing really well. She just turned 5 last week, and so she's now starting to look forward to kindergarten, and that's starting up in the fall. However, that's going to look like. Although she's also tells me that she's feeling nervous about it because she's going to have to make all new friends and all new teachers, and I look at her because she's the most social one out of all 3 of them, and I'm like, you're going to have 0 problems, but she's still nervous. So
yeah. So only your 7-year-old had to make that weird transition from going to school every day to,
well, yeah. So the kids have always been in daycare because I've been working the whole time since we started our family, and so they were, all three of them used to going to a school every day. And when the pandemic started and everything shut down, there was the first week they still went to daycare because they were still open.
Yeah.
Here in Texas, and then the next week, I think everything shut down, and the daycare was still open, but only to kids of essential employees. And since we were not, we had to keep them home. So we kept them home for about 2.5 months. And then in June, sent them back just to get a little bit of more back to a routine for them. Because the daycare does a pretty strict cleaning schedule and various other standards and safety procedures that we felt comfortable with to send them back so that they could get more socialization outside of their sisters.
Yeah.
And we could get a break.
Well, and it is kind of like everybody got to that point where they were like, we've been looking at only each other for a really long time. Mm-hmm. So I know, like, when my kids could finally, like, all the neighbor kids could play together, it was just like, I mean, because it was so funny because we would watch them social distance. Like, they would ride their bikes next to each other up and down the street. Yeah. Like, actually being able to play together. But we would watch them have these conversations out in the driveway. And it's like, my youngest is 7. And the neighbor kid's the same age. And it was just like, they just kept moving closer to each other as they're talking. And it's like, what do you do? And so, like, one mom would have to go and be like, you guys have to move further apart. But what they had heard was like arm's length. And they're like, my arms are only this long, so it was kind of funny to just, like, hear them, and, like, we had to reinterpret things for them. But yeah, it was quite the celebration in the street when they could finally, like, go and jump on a trampoline together and things like that. So
see somebody besides their sibling.
Yeah. So yeah, my oldest is 13, so he was definitely tired of hanging out with kids that just were not as cool as he is.
Well, he's as cool as a 13-year-old. Nobody.
Yes. I mean, everybody knows 13-year-old boys are the coolest. Oh my gosh. So has life, it started to kind of go back to normal a little bit for you guys? I know it's like up and down in Texas right now, right? Like, it's just a little.
Yeah. I mean, our office technically opened in June. But what we said, and we have 4 offices, so Dallas, Columbus, Ohio, Atlanta, and Seattle. And what we said was, you can go back to the office if you want, but it's totally your choice. We're not making you. If you are more comfortable working from home, you can say working from home. Like, everybody was allowed to continue working from home through September 8th. Right now is the decision, without any questions. We're going to reassess everything here in the coming weeks and determine, are we going to extend that and let people continue working from home longer, which I'm going to guess right now we are.
Yeah.
But that official decision hasn't been made yet.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting just to kind of watch this unfold globally, or at least within the US. Because it's just like, we're all at such different, like, just stages of this right now. But yeah, I mean, I have gotten super familiar with Zoom, as has everybody. Zoom is our new best friend.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we use Microsoft Teams internally.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of Teams calls.
Yeah. So did you manage to make anybody into a potato?
No.
Did you see that?
I did not see that. What is this? Is this something on Twitter that I totally missed?
It was like a Microsoft Teams meme, but apparently this person they were on a call, and one person made themselves into a potato, and they couldn't figure out how to undo it. Now, it could have been a complete hoax. I have no idea. But, like, all I want is to be on a call and have someone accidentally turn themselves into a potato. Like,
we haven't done that, but we do have virtual happy hours on Fridays after our company meetings.
Nice.
And it's become a regular occurrence for people to make joke custom backgrounds.
Yes.
And like they'll just throw one up, and then someone else will throw one up, and then just try to one up each other. One of my favorites is a guy on my team took a picture from his computer perspective of his office at his home office with himself poking out of his door frame, like waving hi. So when he has that as his background, he's sitting in the chair in front of his computer and he's got himself in the doorway, like waving. It's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So I created backgrounds with like my favorite celebrities so that it looks like I'm just hanging out with them.
There you go.
I'm going to start putting on formal wear. And like we're at the Oscars together.
There you go.
Just happened to be Oscars in my bedroom, but whatever.
Next to Audrey Hepburn outside of Tiffany's.
Yeah, we're just going to be doing super cool things. So yeah, I'm all for this, except my Zoom call life has dwindled a little bit. So
that's sad.
I'm going to have to just start making people Zoom with me.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Okay. Yes. Participant number 1. I'm just going to, can I just, what do you call that? Crash your happy hours?
Sure. Why not? Come on in.
You said yes, and now I will do it.
I will send you the invitation when we get done with this.
Okay, awesome. I will totally do it. So I'm glad everybody has stayed healthy, right? You've had a healthy house.
Yeah.
Everybody's adjusting and readjusting, which is going to be the story of our lives, I think, for a long time now.
Start of 2020 for sure.
Yeah, 2020 for sure. Hopefully not too much of 2021, but I'm trying not to get ahead of myself there. Were you traveling a lot before all of this?
So I do go to probably about 10 or 12 shows or events throughout the year. As a company, I think I had budgeted to go to 55 shows. Not me personally, but our company, right? I think I had budgeted 55 shows for 2020. I typically focus, me personally, on either the bigger ones or the more national ones, or the more like thought leadership ones like Elevate.
Yeah.
Is where I like to go and spend my time and meet with agents. So I probably do about 15 to 20% of what is totally scheduled out. And I know April I was supposed to go to 4. So obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm just kind of I'm excited to go anywhere at this point.
I know.
So,
I'm definitely itching to get on a plane and go somewhere, and it's not going to happen. Like we were just talking earlier today about the conferences that were supposed to be coming up in the next few months, and what's the status? Are they canceled? Are they postponing? Like whatnot? And I even got an email from an association about their January 2021 event. Like they're trying to make plans for that now. I'm like, why are you trying to make plans for that now?
Yeah, wait till December.
Like that just seems silly, but I mean, I guess they're probably trying to see if they need to book the venue or not right now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. So much unknown, but I think we're getting better at being flexible, if nothing else.
I mean,
I have no choice.
Make plans and then they change.
Yeah, exactly. Man, and I used to get upset when I was supposed to go do something and one of my kids would get sick, and you had to wow, that kind of pales in comparison
I know,
to all of this.
I know. And it's looking at the fall that's coming up, I was supposed to go to Germany with my husband on our big 10-year anniversary trip, and they canceled Oktoberfest. So we decided to push our trip back a year. My middle daughter started in kindergarten, and it's is that going to be from home? That's not that. My oldest one, struggled with learning from home. She is not going to do well. She's just not. And so it's okay, what's that experience going to be like? And then my oldest last year performed in her ballet studio's Nutcracker performance.
Oh yeah.
And so they do that every fall. And now it's well, are they going to do the Nutcracker this year? And that she had so much fun doing it. She's been talking about doing it again. And now it's I don't even know if they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we look forward to. And then, you're a Nebraska fan.
Yes.
And I went to A&M. So, college football, 100% all the way. We have season tickets to Aggie football every year. And so now it's like, that's probably not going to happen. You know, so it's like all the fall things I love every year. It's not happening.
Yeah. I had plans to go and meet some agents at spring practice. You know, it's like a big deal. I mean, it is. It's fun. It's a big deal. And then it was like 2 weeks later, everything just kind of like shut down. And I was like, so I'm not going to come. I don't think anybody's going to be there. So you guys probably wouldn't notice, but just letting you know, I won't be there. You know, because I love I do not love making the drive to Nebraska, but I need to do it more often.
How long is that drive?
It's about 7 hours from
that's a long
where
drive.
I am to my mom. So yeah.
That's a long drive.
Yeah. But, you know, I've gotten used to it. I shouldn't say I could do it with my eyes closed because that's not a good thing to do. But I do know the way. I don't have to use a GPS anymore.
That's true.
Yeah. So that feels like winning in my book. Oh my gosh. So let's tell me about what it is that you do. Like, what has your journey been in your career from where you started and the role that you're in now with Insurance Technologies Corporation? You know, how did you get here?
Well, you know, it's a journey of like 1,000 little steps, right? Like it was never one big thing or one big decision I ever made. And really it started probably when I was in high school and I was applying to college and I was trying to decide what I wanted to major in. And English and writing was always my favorite subject and always just came very naturally to me. Mm-hmm. Majoring in English didn't seem to be very practical.
Yep.
And so I decided to major in journalism, figuring that's a writing-based focused and skill profession, and writing comes naturally to me. So that seems a good fit. And during the course of my undergraduate career, I decided I didn't like the idea of deadlines, like having to write stories on a deadline, even though in business there's always deadlines. But at the time, it didn't seem like it was something I would really be interested in doing. But I talked to my advisor, and she suggested I look into public relations as a discipline and as a focus, because it would combine the journalism background with business. I was like, well, that's interesting. So I started studying that and focusing on that and decided that was the path I wanted to take. But when I was looking down the tunnel towards graduation, I decided I wasn't really done with school. I wasn't ready for a career yet. Yeah. And decided to pursue my master's. So when I wanted to pursue my master's, it's like, well, why didn't I go get a master's in marketing? So I went, moved halfway across the country to Boston and got my master's degree in integrated marketing communication, but still wanted to start my career in public relations. Felt like that was going to be my first step. And when I moved back to Texas, I found a job in Dallas at a very small public relations agency. And when I say very small, I mean it was one person. So I was the first employee, which was an interesting experience. But it was a fabulous, I think I was there almost 3 years. And I learned so much about writing, about communicating, about business. And then after probably about 2.5 years or so, I decided that while it was great and I enjoyed it, that I didn't want to do public relations for my whole career. Yeah. That I really wanted to get more into marketing, because if you look at marketing you can look at it as a pie or as a tree or whatever. Public relations was one piece of that pie, right? What I wanted was to be a part of the whole pie. Because as a public relations agency, I'm only handling one piece for another company. I wanted to be driving the direction for across everything for one company. So I decided, A, I wanted to go in-house, and B, I wanted to focus more on marketing, not just one discipline. So I went and found a marketing job for an accounting firm, which, if you thought marketing for insurance was hard, marketing for accounting is just as hard.
I would say it could maybe be harder.
I mean, at least in insurance, you got a piece of paper saying this is, accounting is, it was hard. And I did that for a couple years, and, there were some things about that job that it didn't feel like the right fit anymore. So I decided to look for another opportunity, and I came across a job posting for a marketing director at a company called Insurance Technologies Corporation. And what's funny is when I was looking for that first marketing job after the PR agency, I actually applied for a marketing position at an insurance carrier.
Yeah.
And got pretty far along the process. And when I was telling my old boss about the opportunity, he goes, "You don't want to work in insurance. Insurance is boring."
Shame on him.
I know, but it's funny because they ended up having a hiring freeze, so I never obviously got that opportunity. But then 3 years later, I end up still in insurance. I mean, I'm not marketing insurance, but I'm still in the industry talking about insurance. And I just like, okay, after 9 years, because that was 9 years ago that I started ITC, it's like, no, insurance is not boring at all.
Well, I would agree. But I like the nerdiness of insurance. I always have. In fact, I tried to leave the industry and came back. I was having lunch with a former client, and we were like talking about his bond rates, and he was like, why did you leave insurance? Clearly you are like in it. So I think you should probably just go back. And I went back a month later.
There you go.
Yeah, it does. It's like, this is interesting. It's an evolving product. And now we're watching the technology in the industry obviously evolve rapidly. And you guys are part of that story.
Yeah.
Which is it's an exciting place to be.
It is. It's hugely exciting. And, I've been at ITC now 9 years. I started as the marketing director. I'm now the chief marketing officer. So my role obviously within the company has evolved. And when I started, Larry Rixford, who is now the CEO, he hired me. And I think I had been at the company maybe a year and a half. And he starts talking to me about, well, what if you had somebody on your team reporting to you, helping you do some of the marketing things? What would you do? And at the time, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what else there is to do. I feel like I'm doing everything. I feel like I'm handling everything. And now I have, a team of 3 plus me. And I'm like, I would like more people. Can I have more people?
Yeah.
So to go from a place where I was the only marketing person doing all of the marketing and not being able to imagine if I had more marketing people, what we would do, to go, God, if I had more marketing people, we could do this, this, and this, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how you can, it's like that whole concept of like, if you buy a bigger house, you'll fill it. You're always like, why would I buy a bigger house? Like, we don't need more room. Like, we're good. But like, you will fill it. You will always fill it. And that's, I mean, and if you're a company that's constantly trying to innovate, then you're going to make sure that your people are doing good work that's contributing towards the purpose of the company. And you'll fill those plates, not with nonsense work, but it does give you a lot more room to just like explore things, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I assume like when you're, looking for people, identifying that candidate that's going to come work, like is it just like, what is it that you look for in somebody? Is it like curiosity? Is it strictly like work experience? Like what do you look for?
I look for somebody who is passionate about their area of expertise. I look for somebody who also knows I don't know everything and has that learning mindset, right? But also has the growth mindset so that they know that they can improve from where they are today through practice and hard work, because that's the only way we can innovate is with a growth mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, at some point you're done growing. And that's not the way I am. That's not the way I want my team to be. That's not the way we want our company to be. So those are the things I look for. And I look for someone, I also look for people who are better at me in some areas, because that's going to make us all better. And also someone who is not going to be afraid to look at me and say, I don't think we need to do this way. I think I want to do it this way. And be able to have a discussion and about whether, and just, we're disagreeing, but be able to come to a consensus that is going to help us all go forward.
Yeah.
Because I don't need yes men. I need someone who's going to come in and say, this is what we need. This is what it's going to take to improve. And here's why.
Yeah. Which makes a huge difference, right? Because you're giving people, I just had a conversation with somebody like right before we hopped on, about giving people permission to fail, and like coming up with a bad idea isn't failing, but you know what I mean? Like, hey, this is going to work or it's not going to work. And this is why, and like being able to give people space to be collaborative, to troubleshoot, to play devil's advocate, helps keep that growth mindset. I think it just, otherwise, if it's like, no, if you were dictating everything, then I think it probably you wouldn't be growing the way that you are. And
right. Yeah. I don't need to be the only one coming up with ideas. I want other people on my team coming up with ideas, because there are things I'm not going to think of. And if I'm the only one coming up with ideas, that's limiting. That is limiting us. And that's not what I wanted. One of my favorite interview questions I ask every single candidate is, what drives you more, a fear of failure or a determination to succeed? Because that's going to tell me right then, what is their mindset? Are they afraid of failing and have a fixed mindset? Or are they going to be so focused on succeeding that they're not going to be afraid to fail, because that's just going to get them to that success faster?
Yeah. 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 And it's, I think it's like, you're looking for people that want to be challenged.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, and I always think like, this is how people are, right? Everybody wants to be challenged. But
no.
I'm always surprised when I meet somebody. It's like, no, I like the status quo. I'm like, what?
This is a constant lesson in my life. I feel like I have to have every so often, is the reminder that not everybody thinks the way I think.
Yeah.
That not everybody wants the things that I want. And that's okay. That is totally fine. Everybody's entitled to have their own opinions. Everybody's entitled to have their own goals. But I sometimes forget and think everybody has the same, the same goals that I have, or thinks the same way I do. And it's gotten me into trouble.
Yeah.
a few times.
Yeah.
It's a lesson.
It's easy to make those general assumptions, but yeah, like I totally get that. But yeah, it feels a little jarring when you encounter it though.
Yes. You're like, oh crap, you don't think that way? No, I don't. Oh no.
Be like, I'm not sure where we go from here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you've built this wonderful career at ITC. Over 9 years now there. But when you think about this journey, this 1,000-step journey that you've been on, who has had the biggest impact on you?
Is it cliche to say my parents?
No, I think it's absolutely wonderful. Like, I think that's great.
So it starts with my parents, and there's a million lessons that they've taught me, not about working specifically, just life in general, but I think the application can, extends to my career. And some of those are, you do what is right because it is right, no matter how hard it is. And I have witnessed both of my parents practice that. And even when it's hard, that they do it because it is what's right.
Yeah.
Lessons like, so this is when I was learning to drive, right? I remember I always hated when I had my driver's permit and you have to drive with the parent in the passenger seat, and I would have to drive with my dad. I hated it so much because he was very intense.
Yeah.
About the lessons he was trying to teach, and it made me very nervous. But what he would always say is like, look out, what's the farthest thing you can see on the road? So stop looking right in front of you, look further out.
Yeah.
And I had to be able to tell him that. And, you know, that's looking ahead and not just what is the very next thing I need to do is something that's very important in life and in my career. But then also paying attention to the details. My dad's very big on paying attention to what's around you.
Yeah.
And what you do and how what you do affects the things around you. And I don't think enough people do that. And I think that's one of the things that has really helped me in my career is that I see the details.
Yeah.
And maybe not all the time, but I see more details than a lot of people do. And I care about the details because the details can make a huge difference. And they can mean a difference between saving a client and losing a client. They can mean the difference between winning the business and not winning the business. And that is something that I got from him.
Yeah.
And then the other person who has had a huge impact in my career is Laird. You know, he and I have we started a podcast, right?
Yep.
Because of the way we just talk with each other. And it's this constant back and forth that surprises a lot of people and entertains a lot of people. And it's funny because it has been that way from the very beginning. So I don't know if you know this story. I think we've told it on our podcast before, but in my job interview at ITC, he challenged me on a couple of things. And I gave him my opinion straight up. Yeah. And we are arguing. Like in the interview, I am arguing with him. And I am thinking in my head, is this a good idea to be arguing with the person you are interviewing with for a job?
Yeah.
This is not a good idea. But I couldn't stop it. Like there was just something about the way, I don't know if it was him or the way he asked it or what, but there was just something that made me go, no, I have to give him my opinion and I have to go full on it. And I did. And, you know, it worked out because obviously. But that's the way we've always been is we challenge each other. We push each other. And I would not have had the courage to do some of the things I've done at ITC if he hadn't said, Becky, do it. You can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you can do it.
Yeah. It's crazy when you encounter that person that challenges you and encourages you at the same time. Because challenging can like feel like I'm going to be defeated here.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a fixed mindset. You're like, well, I'm waving the white flag here. And I have had those moments, but I also have people that are like, I'm challenging you because I know that you're capable. So this is not a challenge to stop you in your tracks. This is a challenge for you to make a leap forward.
Exactly.
It makes such a huge difference. And like, I love the story about the interview because you were being you.
Yeah.
You weren't, it wasn't like I'm putting on the super polished Becky jacket right now and like I'm gonna be the interview persona that I think I should be in this situation. You were you.
Yep.
And so there wasn't any mystery as to who Laird was getting when you showed up on day one.
No. And I think that was also, he was also looking for someone who was going to challenge him back.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've had the pleasure of meeting Laird or talking with him.
It's just like he's like the man of mystery right now. I have not met him yet.
Many people find him intimidating.
Okay.
Partly because he's like 6'5" or however tall he is. He's a big guy. But he's also just he knows his stuff. Right? Yeah. Whether it's about the technology or about the marketing or about the business side, like he knows his stuff. And so to challenge him on something can be very hard because, well, what if he's just going to tell me I'm wrong? And it's like, but I didn't feel like I was wrong. And so I think he wanted somebody in the marketing position that was open that was not going to be afraid to tell him he was wrong. luckily that worked out for me because I wasn't afraid to tell him he was wrong.
Hey, I like, it's like you need to be able to go toe to toe, and you do it respectfully, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I don't, it probably doesn't end with, just go home now and take your bat and go home type of thing. I mean, I think maybe every once in a while.
I mean, every once in a while, but very rarely, rarely. Yeah. I mean, we have the same opinion and the same viewpoints on a lot of things. So when we disagree, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
But I'm also able to tell him, no, I don't agree with that. Here's why.
Yeah.
And sometimes he goes, okay, do it your way. And sometimes he goes, no, I want it done this way. To which I go, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I officially putting out that I disagree with this.
Yeah.
And here's why, but I will do it your way because you're the CEO. So that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's always, it's nice to hear about those really like collaborative work environments.
Yeah.
Because I just think that when you look at like workplaces across the board, like we just need more of that.
It only makes you better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, we need to be innovative. We have to continue growing and evolving. And the only way we're going to do that is if we're challenging each other and collaborating and being willing to fail. That's where really good stuff starts to happen. So,
yeah. But we also, I think we have a tendency, and I say this as like just people in general, have a tendency to be afraid of conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Because either we're afraid someone's not going to like us or we're going to upset somebody, but conflict can be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like healthy conflict, right? There's unhealthy conflict, but healthy conflict can be a good thing because that is when you're pushing each other and challenging each other, and you're ultimately going to find a better answer that way than if you all just said, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And we do, like, I used to be like a classic avoider.
Yeah.
It's like, whoop, this thing, I can feel tension here, and I'm going to put on my rose-colored glasses and I'm going to fix this into something where the tension doesn't exist. But I was never really actually tackling the tension. And so I've had to learn that. It's some people may be born with it, but I think it really is something that you develop partially through discipline yourself, but also having someone that's willing to say, like, we're going to rumble a little here, but we're going to walk away friends. It's going to be fine.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I think the most recent episode you published, I don't know if you're going to have another one before this one, but the one with Sabrina, talking about Brene Brown, right? Like it takes a level of vulnerability to approach the conflict. Mm-hmm. But it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I've started to embrace it. I think I still have work to do, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yes. So you have, had different roles. You've worked into a chief marketing officer position, which I think is amazing. I love just talking with strong female leaders. But how do we help more women take that first step into leadership? Like, how do we bring them along into this? Because I think it can still be a very intimidating thing.
I think the first thing we need to do is remind women that leadership is not tied to a title. Mm-hmm. Right. So this was, oh God, probably 5 years ago now, or maybe more. It's been a while. I've lost track of when things happened at ITC. Normally I remember when things happened based on when my children were born.
Yep.
But this is probably about 5 years ago now. We were hosting an event for our carrier partners, and it was the end of the event. So all of our guests at this point had left, and it was just some of us from ITC sitting around having a beer, talking about the event, talking about whatever else we had going on at the time. And I was sitting next to Scott Upfield, who is our current COO. He's one of the co-founders of the company.
Okay.
obviously been around for a long time. And at the time he was CEO. And I don't remember what we were talking about, but I remember saying to him, Scott, we need more female leaders at this company. And I think it is at that point, I must have just been marketing director, or maybe I was VP of marketing, I forget, but it was fairly early on. And he looks at me and he goes, Becky, we have you. And it took that comment for me to realize I was a leader. Mm-hmm. Because I did not see myself as a leader before then.
Yeah.
So I think we have to remind people that leadership is not about the title. It is not about having people report to you. It is all about your mindset and being able to look at the bigger picture, being able to see how you fit in that bigger picture, being able to see how other people fit in that bigger picture, and where the boat needs to go and how can you get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, and it's like, it's action oriented, right? And I do think that, like, when I was, early on in my career, it was all like, it was all attached to a title. And that's
Yep.
how it was promoted within the agency and with anybody else that I knew. Like, that was what my experience was telling me, was that, well, now this person has this title and this is what they do. And I do that. Like, I love that idea that it's a bigger conversation than I want to have these words behind my name.
Right.
It's really about so much more than that. So yeah, I mean, but we do, I think we have to just point that out to people.
I mean, it is, and it's an important thing to remember, because the other thing to remember is just because you may manage a team doesn't make you a leader.
Right.
Right. Are you familiar with Gaping Void?
With who?
Gaping Void.
No.
Okay. They're a consulting company now. It actually started back at the beginning of the internet as a blog. The artist Hugh McLeod worked in advertising, and he would go sit in bars at the end of the day and doodle on the back of business cards. Okay. Well, when the internet came around, he started publishing those doodles on his blog with thoughts about marketing, thoughts about advertising, thoughts about business. And that has evolved to the point where now there is a company that does custom artwork, but also consulting on culture and various other things. I'm a huge fan of their artwork. I have a couple prints in my office, not here at home, obviously, but like my actual office.
Yeah.
And we have many around the ITC offices. We've actually requested some custom ones that they made for us. So, huge fans of their work. But I think we have one of the prints in our office that has a Venn diagram, right? You have managers and you have leaders, and the overlap of the two circles is very small, because a leader doesn't have to be a manager, and a manager is not necessarily a leader.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think, we have to, and I know that I have to expand my mindset. But it was funny. So when I went to work for Total CSR, they were like, well, what do you want your title to be? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was just trying to come up with something that I was like, does this work? And they're like, well, we don't really care what you choose. Just choose something. And I was like, but this is a big deal. And they're like, it's not a big deal. It's about everything you do after you're here.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang it. And sometimes I still get hung up on it. And they're very good about saying we don't care. It's about the doing. It's not about everything else. And so, yeah.
It was pretty similar when I started at ITC, because I think the job posting was actually like a marketing specialist / director.
Yeah.
They weren't sure what level they were looking for or something, I guess. Yeah. So when I started, I think I had just set my signature to be marketing specialist, because, I was a woman who raised not to overreach my status in life, right? We all were. So I was going for the lower level instead of the higher level, which, I would have done differently probably if I was a man, but whatever. And Larry came to me and said, no, you're director. And I was like, I am. Are you sure? are you sure you want me to do that? He's like, yes. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting now to watch like our daughters and what the world looks like, you know,
Yeah.
when they venture into that world. But I'm confident that you and I are helping to create a better work environment for them.
You know, the thing about having three girls, both when I was pregnant with the third one and after she was born, everyone's like, well, are you trying for a boy? No, I don't care.
Yeah.
And what I say now is I was just meant to raise strong, independent, fierce women,
Yeah.
because that's obviously what I am here to do.
Yeah.
And I look at my middle child, you know, the one who I said earlier is the source of all my gray hair. And I look at her and I go, baby girl, you're going to be CEO of a company someday. Because she does have that natural leadership and charisma, and it's going to be fantastic when she's older. It is very hard to parent.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's like that willfulness that, but they're very like, is she super intuitive? Like my 7-year-old is very intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, why do you know that? How do you know that? But she's always like, she's in touch with everything, but she's sassy and she's bossy, and her brothers do not like it. They're older, but she runs the house. And so, yeah, but she's got all those qualities. And I'm always like, I hope you never, like, don't ever let anybody tell you shouldn't be this way.
Right. I know. I'm telling her, you are going to be a leader in whatever you do, because you is just natural.
Yeah.
And that's family/career, right?
Yes, absolutely. So if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Probably stop caring so much about other people, what they think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's been, you know, times where I've let it really get to me about what other people have thought about me and what I'm doing. And I care. It's not that I don't care at all about it. It's more about the right people.
Yeah.
Right. And so the people who don't have a direct effect on my life or on my career, I don't need to worry about what they think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so easy to solicit the advice of the wrong people.
Yes.
Yeah. And then just let their opinions of things have some sort of impact. But yeah, I think I'm going to write that down as a piece of advice that I need to carry with me, because I do overabsorb sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, I would say, like, don't live small.
That's
I think I spent a long time living small, and so just not being willing to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But also, and I think it really started to come out when I had a girl. Like my boys, I knew were going to be fine, but then I had this little girl, and I was like, you know, she's challenged me from the moment she was born, you know, and so I think that it has kind of forced me to step up and step out and evolve a little bit more than I thought I was ever going to have to. But yeah.
Yep.
Girls will do that.
They will. They absolutely will.
So what do future plans look like for you? And I don't care if it's next week. I don't care if you have figured out what you're having for dinner, or if you have big hopes and dreams you want to share. But what does the future look like for you?
You know, I have said for many years, I'm here at ITC for a long time, and that's still the case. Like, this company is doing some fantastic things. It has evolved and grown so much in the 9 years I've been there. And I don't think I would be wrong in saying I had a role in that growth.
Yeah.
And I see so much potential of what this company can do, and to continue to be a part of that is very exciting. So, that's really what I want to keep focusing on doing, is continue to make my impact on this company in terms of the marketing, in terms of the people, so that ITC can reach its potential and continue to grow like it can.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. That's happiness, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So final question, and since you're a listener, but
I do.
Are you
about it a lot?
Have you prepared?
I have. There is very a rare occasion where I am not prepared, and this is not one of them.
Okay, perfect. So, if you were going to play DJ for 5 minutes, and you get to choose the song that everybody has to listen to, what are you going to play?
So I debated. Do I pick a popular song or a popular band that a lot of people know, or do I pick something that just really speaks to me individually? And I've decided to go with the latter. There's a band out of New England called Guster. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I know who they are. I can't say I've listened to a lot of them, but I do know who they are.
Yeah, they are one of my top 5 bands of all time. And they have a song called Come Downstairs and Say Hello. I think it's from their 1999. It's one of their early albums, but it is one of my favorite songs that they play. And it starts off slow and quiet, and it builds and gets faster and more frantic and more energetic. And it's a song that speaks to my soul in a way that very few songs do. And I'm not saying I've cried when I've seen it performed live. I'm also not saying that I've cried when I've seen it performed live.
The rumors may or may not be true.
It happens. It may or may not have happened. But yeah, that song, just every time I hear it, I feel it deep within me in a way I don't feel every song.
Yeah. I love how music can do that. I just love it. Like it's like it connects us like in a way that nothing else can. Right. Yeah.
And it is so connected, I think, like in ways smell can be, right? That you hear a certain song or you smell a certain smell, and it just floods you, not just with the memories, but actually feeling like you did at that point in your life.
Yeah.
And that's something special.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wonderful. I'm going to have to make an album of all of these songs that people
You should make a Spotify playlist and share it, because I will totally follow that.
Okay. Well, now that I finally am like utilizing Spotify the way that I should be, I will definitely do that.
Tweet it, because I will follow that.
Okay, perfect. There's going to be some Hanson on there. Just saying.
That's okay. It's supposed to be a playlist of all of the songs from your podcast. So
yes. Actually, nobody has mentioned Hanson.
That's awesome.
If you're listening, Hanson, I would like to hang out. I've only been dreaming about this since I was like 13 years old. Oh my gosh. Well, I will have to check out Is it Guster or Guster, right? With
Guster,
the G.
Yeah, with the G.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I have. Yeah. I'm just trying to think like when and where, but I'm sure it will come back to me when I look them up.
I think they've been bigger around like the college scene, like playing college campuses and stuff.
Yeah.
I found them when I lived in Boston and was going to graduate school up there through friends of mine who lived in New England, and we're from New England, because they're from, I think, are they from Rhode Island or Connecticut? I don't know, somewhere up in New England.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm very bad with East Coast geography. All the states just mashed together, and my sister just moved to Maine, and I was like, how far is this from this thing? And they're like, oh, it's 8 hours. I'm like, what? Isn't everything tiny up there?
Well, okay, so here's the funny thing. When I lived in Boston, my parents came up to visit with my little brother. He was in high school at the time and wanted to go visit Syracuse University in New York. And so we decided to rent a car and drive out to Syracuse, and we drove west out of Massachusetts, which is the long way around across the state, and it took like 3 hours to get out of the state. And I thought that was insane. I grew up in Texas. 3 hours, you're still in Texas, no matter which direction you go in.
Yeah, that is a big state to try and drive across, for sure. When I saw that thing about that guy like driving to deliver his daughter lunch, and it was an 11-hour drive, and all he did was go across the state, I was like, what? I mean, right, so I forget how big it is until I hear something like that. And then I'm like,
you ready for a Texas fact that's probably going to blow your mind? When you're in El Paso, which is the westernmost point in the state, you are closer to LA than the eastern border of Texas.
What?
Yeah, it's true. You are closer to LA, which is 3 states over, than the eastern border of your own state.
This better come up in a Trivial Pursuit game in my future.
It probably will, now that you've heard it.
Yes. I'm going to beat my kids at Trivial Pursuit again. The only ones I can beat. But I still take the win. Oh my gosh. Well, I am so appreciative of this time. I love getting to know you. Keep tweeting all of the funny stuff. I love the humor and the sarcasm, and it's always super relatable because I've lived it. As soon as I read it, I'm like, yep, I've thought that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're just saying what everybody else is thinking.
And it's usually filtered, so.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening, and I can't wait. I don't know. One of these days, we're going to be at a conference together and hang out and get a beverage.
Absolutely.
Or I'll see you at happy hour maybe.
Happy hour this Friday, tomorrow.
Yes. Boom.
You're in.
Happy hour it is. All right. Thank you, Becky.
It's been a blast. Thank you, Olivia.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.